I pulled into my own driveway, and for a second I thought I was in one of those surreal dreams where your house gets rearranged while you blink. Except this was painfully, stupidly real. Two guys in what looked like security uniforms folding chairs, a cooler, the whole suburban stakeout vibe, like they'd set up for a block party and just forgotten to invite me. I sat in my car, hand on the wheel, and had that split-second private conversation with myself, you can't be serious, and then rolled down the window because what else do you do when the surreal becomes your Friday night? One of them, the clipboard guy, walks up without so much as a how do you do and taps my window with his pen like he's summoning me to principal's office. We need to talk, he says. Talk about what, the weather? Then he drops the real dumb bomb, they're here on behalf of the HOA, and I need to come apologize to Mrs. Davidson. Karen, as half the neighborhood calls her in person, for emotional distress caused by my backyard get-together last weekend. If you're picturing me at some rager blasting EDM, you got the wrong movie. I had maybe 12 people over 2 pizzas, a Bluetooth speaker playing background tunes, music you could hum over while you cut the grass. To Karen, apparently, it was Woodstock East. She called the cops. They came. They left. Nothing else happened. End of story. I thought the same thing. I was wrong. Very wrong. So now I'm being told that my democratic right to enjoy my property comes with a mandatory, forced face-to-face apology to a neighbor who apparently believes every bump on the decibel meter is a personal affront. I tell the clipboard guy I am not apologizing because I'm not. And that's when the other guard, who'd been quiet like a bad supporting actor, leans in and says with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, "Sir, we've been instructed not to leave until you comply. We can do this the easy way or the hard way." The hard way was never defined, which was the point. It was supposed to be an intimidation trick, the modern day "we have options" that people say when they want you to know they can make your life a small nightmare. They'd brought camping chairs to my gate. They had a thermos. They were basically running a 2-man encampment outside my driveway, like it was a protest march. Neighbors popped their heads out of windows, eyebrows raised. A couple of teenagers slowed their bikes as if they were trying to figure out whether this was content or not. My pizza was sitting on the passenger seat, slowly entering the cold phase, and I had a decision to make: roll down the welcome mat, apologize for enjoying my own yard and save the night, or do something stupid and make it a YouTube special. I chose stupid because sometimes stupid is courage wearing a hoodie. I put the car in park and sat there, locked eyes with Clipboard Man, and told myself out loud this time, "Okay, let's see your authority." Then I pulled out my phone and hit record. I wasn't just recording for me, I started a live stream. I aimed the camera at them and said with a smile that was half bark, half laugh, "Hey folks, welcome to Suburban Drama Live. Care to tell my followers why the HOA thinks hiring private guards to strong-arm a homeowner is a good look?" The guards' faces went from confident to thinly veiled panic in about 3 seconds. The clipboard guy started sputtering, "You can't record us," which for the record is not a law, it's a power play. So I narrated the whole thing, the party, Karen's complaint, the cops who found nothing, played it like a story because that's what it was now. This is where it stops being a petty neighbor spat and becomes about theater, public theater, recorded theater. And there's something about having a phone pointed at you that makes even the biggest bully check their reflection 2 or 3 times. The dynamic flipped. They whispered, glanced at my screen, then at each other. Their lines had been written by someone who assumed shame would be private. They forgot that shame, when put under a camera, loses its roar. And then about 10 minutes into the live, the clipboard guy's phone buzzed. Loud, guilty kind of buzz. He walked away to answer it, clutching his phone like a man whose script was about to be rewritten. From 5 feet away, I could see him mouth, "Yes, ma'am," while his face shifted from bravado to sheepish. When he came back, he looked like a man who'd been told his lunch was canceled and his parking spot reassigned. He neither apologized nor issued a challenge. He and his partner packed up, got in a little security sedan that had been idling like a slow heartbeat down the block, and they left without looking at me. No goodbye, no "we'll be back," nothing. They evaporated like a bad smell. Victory, sweet and immediate, flooded through me, quieter than I'd imagined, and kind of peculiar. I pulled into my driveway, closed the garage behind me, and felt like I'd won a tiny, weird war. But winning didn't erase the aftertaste. How had a homeowners association come to feel like a private little government? How had one person's thin tolerance for noise metastasized into an organization that could hire folks to gatekeep my driveway? The twist, because there has to be one, right, didn't come from the guards. It came from Mrs. Lopez, my neighbor 2 houses down, who stuck her head out, saw what was happening, and then did something I didn't see coming. She marched across the street, waved a stack of papers, and stopped at my gate. Now, Mrs. Lopez is the kind of woman who waters her succulents at dawn and has that small-town magistrate energy, quiet, precise, unnerving. She tapped the papers on the hood of my car and said, "You do know this HOA can't do that, right?" The papers were bylaws printed, highlighted, annotated because she was, I found out later, a retired paralegal who kept receipts for people like me, neighbors who assumed, because they said so, was actual law. She'd been watching the live stream too, and had the wherewithal to print out the exact clauses that said in plain language that the HOA could not deputize private security to coerce residents on private property. She had the dates of legal precedents, the paragraph numbers, everything. It was absurd and comforting at the same time, like watching the plot resolve itself because someone brought the right prop. Hearing her read the specific lines, "no enforcement powers beyond association governance," calmed me in a way that recording never could. The guards had relied on fear. Mrs. Lopez relied on paper. Between my camera and her legalese, the whole setup unraveled. Karen apparently had the reach to make people show up, but not to rewrite contracts or erase recorded broadcasts. Once the HOA realized their theatrics were public and their legal footing shaky, they retreated quietly like a chess player who realizes their queen's been misplaced. The next morning I got an email from the HOA, cold bureaucratic, the exact tone organizations use when they know they've been seen. It said the complaint had been resolved and closed. No apology, no flourish, just the bureaucrat's finality. But within the neighborhood, it was not final. The video had thousands of views by lunchtime, and people I barely knew were commenting with their own horror stories, enforced landscaping rules that bordered on pettiness, fines for the color of your mailbox, threats over Christmas lights that were offensive to someone else's aesthetic. My stupid little stand became a mirror reflecting a lot of small power abuses. Here's the part that sits with me. Maybe it will sit with you too. For a while, the lesson seemed simple. Call people out, expose them, and they'll back down. But then I met Mrs. Lopez on her porch, and we talked. She told me about the time she fought a developer who wanted to build a duplex in the lot next to her house. Small town, bigger fight, and how she learned that power isn't always top down. Sometimes it's sideways. Sometimes it's just the right neighbor with the right file. I realized the moral wasn't live stream everything and win. The moral was quieter. Know your rights, cultivate your community. And when the machinery of small authorities turns toward bullying, bring evidence, witnesses, and yes, a camera if you have to. The real muscle is not the muscle of outrage, but the muscle of preparation. And there's another meaner moral tucked in there, the kind that tastes like dark coffee in the morning. People who rely on shame and intimidation are banking on your silence. They hope you'll fold because it's easier than pushing back. But shame, like any currency, loses value when it's spent publicly. That's not to say public shaming is noble, it's messy, and it can turn into a weapon. But in that specific moment when the clipboard man realized someone with a stream and a neighbor with legal clauses could undo his assignment, justice felt tidy. It felt like karma in the petty, perfect suburban sense. The people who tried to make my night miserable ended up being the ones who looked ridiculous. I still get a stink eye from Karen when our paths cross. She drives by a little slower, like someone checking to see if the coast is clear, but she hasn't escalated since. The HOA hasn't tried directing private guards to my driveway again. My video filled a little hole in the neighborhood story. Somebody stood up and didn't back down, and people responded. Strangers left comments. Longtime residents left messages thanking me for speaking up. And Mrs. Lopez, she'd laugh if I called her a hero. She got a carton of cookies on my doorstep the next week with a note that said simply, "For keeping your door open." So if you ask me what the takeaway is, if you're skimming to the bottom for a neat seasonal morale, I'd say this power is often a combination of procedure and perception. You can be crushed by procedure if you don't know it, and you can be cowed by someone else's performance if you let them perform in private. Learn the rules that apply to you, keep your evidence, and build small alliances. The worst thing you can do is assume the system will self-correct, because it won't. People correct systems when they're visible and inconvenient to those who run them. And here's the kicker. This story ends with a satisfying little taste of justice, sure, but it also opens a door to a question. I can't stop asking myself, when does standing your ground become escalation? And when is exposing someone the right form of accountability versus plain revenge? Is it always justice when the bully looks foolish, or sometimes just spectacle? I want to know what you think. Have you ever been pushed by a tiny authority and had to push back? Did you document it? Did you call someone? Did you let it slide? Drop it in the comments. Tell me the wild HOA thing you've seen, or if you've been the Karen in someone else's story. Tell us what you learned. Share your position. Right, wrong, justified. And if you've got a similar tale, tell it. Because the more we share, the less any one person can make their private little tyranny feel normal. So yeah, learn your rights, find your allies, and record when you must. And if you like the story, tell someone else, leave a comment, start a conversation, and let's make sure the next time someone pulls a clipboard stunt, they have to answer to more than one person.